Good morning, or I should say good afternoon, everybody. I am Joanna Craney, founder and co-partner of Empowered Financial Strategies. I'm a financial advisor and a special needs planner. Today, we are highlighting a very special organization called The Next Steps, or also known as TNS. And I have the pleasure to have Josh Fields and Lisa Butler with me here today. And what really, one of the reasons I wanted to bring them to our community is because I often hear from families that I'm working with that they feel lost in their transition for their adult child with a disability out of high school, right? That transition period can be really, it's scary, it's confusing, it's complex. So I had the pleasure of connecting with Lisa a few months ago and found out that their services can really help families in the transition from high school to the real world. TNS is an organization that is paving a pathway to create sustainable models of independence for individuals with disabilities. Their programs work with students, with schools, with families, employers, and adults with disabilities to create solutions to everyday barriers so that they can become active members of their communities. So I am again so excited to welcome Josh and Lisa today. You'll see Lisa in a second. They're going to swap in and out. So thank you so much, Josh, for being with us here today. And let's just get right into the meat of the conversation. What is the Next Step program, and how did you create TNS?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joanna. We're really excited to be able to talk about TNS today. So the Next Step programs were a 501c3 nonprofit that originally started in the Doylestown, Pennsylvania area to create opportunities for my friends who had intellectual disabilities as they transitioned out of high school. Our story starts way back in 2015. I was still a high school student. And I was getting ready to transition out of high school. And I started asking my friends with disabilities what they were going to do. I was going to college, I was going to get a job, my steps were kind of lined up for me. A lot of that had to do with the public school system and how they, provided me an education that created building blocks for me to be successful. And what I learned was that the students that I'd gone to school with my whole life, who were in classes with me, who did extracurriculars with me, they didn't have the same pathway forward. And the more I asked questions about what happens for people with disabilities after high school, the more I learned that the school system wasn't necessarily responsible for what comes next, or so they thought. That kind of set me on this mission to make sure that my friends had opportunities, that they had jobs, that they had social experiences, that they had educational opportunities, all the things that I was going to have access to be a successful adult. So I co-founded TNS in 2015 with a grad student at Michigan State. We had spent the summer together at Camp PALS, which is a camp for young adults with Down syndrome. And together we really created TNS to, address this big concern of what happens to people with disabilities after high school.
Wow, what an impact. Like, you really saw the possibility, you saw the gap, and you took action, which I just think is so phenomenal, because in the interim between, the possibility and the gap, it can be really scary, and not everybody has the courage to take action. So I really acknowledge you for that, Josh.
Thank you.
And what makes TNS different from traditional programs that are out there?
I get asked that question a lot because there are a lot of organizations that are supporting the disability community, and I believe we all have different pieces of the puzzle that we play. But what I think makes us different is how family focused we are. Everything that TNS does is impacted by our families, by the young adults that we serve. We don't just go around and build programs here and there, to generate revenue or to bring in more people. We're building programs that are requested by the families, that are requested by the young adults. And we actually sit down and we listen to what are their struggles, what skills are they looking to gain, what experiences are they hoping to get out of, and we build customized programs for families and young adults. And I don't know many other organizations that really take that time to build a program in the design of the family or the young adult. And another thing I think that makes us different is, we're a new organization. For the last 30 years, the same organizations have been serving this community. And while they have made a lot of progress, I feel that there's been a lot of red tape created within this industry that has prevented other programs and other opportunities from being created. TNS does not operate in that, red tape or in that, inside the box thinking. Everyone on our team is innovative. Everyone on our team is willing to try things that might not have been tried before, or try things that, might not have worked before, but do it in a different way. And I think with doing all of that, it's created the TNS that exists today, which I often say is it's not what the organization was when I was in high school. We have come a very long way, but we've done that through that innovative thinking.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I just get chills just thinking about it. And truly, there is a lot of red tape out there that creates barriers.
Absolutely.
For families. And what I'm hearing is that you really are listening and really sitting side by side with families to see like what it is that what they want for their child. And that's really meaningful.
Thank you.
I'm just thinking about like the future and what does the future hold for TNS?
That's a great question. That's one that keeps me up all the time. When you start something when you're 16, you have these big plans, right? These big visions of, seeing the next step everywhere, helping everyone who needs it. And when I was starting the organization, I learned how naive I was in the beginning, and how long things take to build. But something magical that happened during COVID, which sounds bizarre to say, something magical during COVID, but for us, TNS began to expand during COVID. All the other providers, all the other disability agencies, they had to close. They weren't prepared to support their young adults during the time of, COVID. And when that happened, we had a group of families that came to us and they said, we want TNS, our kids need a community, our kids need something to do. And I shouldn't say kids because they're my age, we're young adults, right? Yeah. So the young adults, they needed something to do. And what ended up happening was we created our first really direct service programming during COVID. And that was serving 11 young adults with intellectual disabilities. That program, we just closed our fall applications, and we now have over 70 applicants. So within 2 years, without any marketing, just through word of mouth and through, practicing what we're preaching, we've seen this mega organic growth. And this has led me to now realize that original vision I had where TNS should be everywhere and could be everywhere, it's possible, because what we've proven this year and the last year was that there is a need for what we're doing. So for the future, we're looking at growth. We're looking at taking the TNS model, the TNS vision, our programming, our values, and plopping that in other areas that need TNS. And, I like to argue that every community needs a TNS. TNS is not just great for the people that we serve who have intellectual disabilities. It has led to businesses becoming more inclusive in our community. Oh, it has led to, yes. A family created a bakery together that's run by young adults with disabilities because they were impacted by the community that we were creating. When I think about the future, I think about finding other communities that are like mine, that are ready for an organization to come in and help change, how communities think, how communities operate. And one of the things that I loved that happened this year was Lisa Butler and I teamed up, and she said, I want TNS in Harrisburg. I want TNS for my daughter. My daughter is turning 21. There is nothing out here. So Lisa was really our first guinea pig, and we launched our first, TNS. She's laughing. We launched our first TNS community outside of the Philadelphia area in Harrisburg this past May, and it's been amazing. So that's growth, thinking about where we're headed and how we can get TNS to any community that really needs it.
You certainly have a growth mindset, and it blows my mind away that you had this vision at such a young age. Most 16-year-olds are not thinking about what you're thinking about, and wow, again, chills. Like, this is just so remarkable.
Thank you.
So speaking of, the growth of the organization, where does TNS currently serve?
Great question. So it's very interesting because I have staff and volunteers all over the country. And a lot of that is because when I was growing up, I was working at various disability organizations as a kid, as a young adult. And I made so many strong connections with people who are like-minded, like myself and like Lisa, who, believe that everyone has ability. The most of our operations are currently taking place in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and the surrounding areas. In May of 2022, we opened up a state-of-the-art community and career center. It's one of the most beautiful buildings I've ever seen a nonprofit get to work in. And within that center, we've now been able to launch more and more programs. We've been able to bring in more families and to create different supports. And now TNS is also serving this greater Harrisburg area because of Lisa's program. I shouldn't say this quite yet, but coming soon in the next couple of months, we're planning on starting TNS Pittsburgh and TNS Westchester. So we're kind of all over Pennsylvania now, which is really exciting. And this is happening not because, I'm looking at a map and saying we need to be here, here, and there. It's happening because we've got families and passionate people coming to us and saying, I want to bring this here. And we'd be silly not to say, all right, let's work together. How do we figure out how to take this model and plop it where you're at?
Yeah, so I think that, how would families, so it's twofold. It's really like, okay, TNS is already here, and parents can come to you and reach out to you, which I'm going to get to in a second, for their own son or daughter. But it also sounds like with this growth vision that parents in wherever you are across the United States, this is a possibility for you to have impact and to take TNS's model and grow it in your communities. Josh, like what you're doing is phenomenal.
Thank you.
And so like, how do families get in touch with you? What can families do to reach out and create impact for their own family, but the community at large?
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in the more people that want to do this work, the better opportunities are going to exist for everybody. My door's always open. My email's josh@tnsprograms.org. I'm getting emails constantly from people all over who are just curious about our model. The first step is really just having a conversation and learning about what TNS is and how we do things differently. And then TNS has been working with these leaders in different areas to provide them the basic startup resources that we had in the beginning to really build their community. Folks can get in touch with us through our Instagram or our Facebook, our website. We are pretty open to communication, and we have a lot of different ways to reach us. But I welcome anyone who's interested in starting a TNS or anyone who's interested in having the TNS impact in their community to reach out to us. Any member of my team would love to take the call, and we love to share what we've learned and what we're building, because it's not, I tell people all the time, what we're doing is not rocket science. We're providing what people are looking for. That's, all it is. And we do that by listening. We do that by, bringing in some of the best educators and the best, community professionals to build, new programming, innovative programming. So a lot of that can be trained, a lot of that can be coached on. And that's something that our team really loves to do.
That is fantastic. And really the key to all of this, Josh, is that you had a vision and you acted on it. And, I'm sure you were scared and you didn't know like how you're going to get there, but you figured it out. And truly, like, I acknowledge you for that. That is amazing. And you are making a huge impact on the communities that you serve.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. You're absolutely right. It was not back when I was 16, it wasn't that scary, right? I was like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. It's going to be great. The scary part has been this growth, right? Like, we're finally at this point where it's working. What I envisioned when I was a kid exists today, which gives me goosebumps to talk about because it's crazy. But the fact of the matter is, we now have this huge opportunity to keep going and to keep building and to keep impacting people. And that's the thing that keeps me up at night is, always making sure that we have enough donors, that we have enough volunteers, pulling in the right resources so that what we've built doesn't lose quality as we build more. It's been a huge learning opportunity in the last 8 years. I recently just left my full-time job about a year ago and started working full-time for TNS. And since then, I've been able to build a team. We've gotten office spaces. We've really seen this growth that makes all the things happening less scary and more exciting, if that makes sense.
Oh my gosh, makes total sense. Thank you so much, Josh. I know Lisa is going to join us, and I'm so excited for Lisa Butler, who's one of the program managers for TNS, to join us. I'm not sure if Sofia is going to join us or.
Sofia actually just left for the day. We're going to meet Sofia for a picnic right after this, but I'm going to switch seats and Lisa will pop up in 1 second. Thanks so much, Joanna.
Oh, thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm so excited. Can you share with us what led you to TNS?
Sure. Well, it wasn't a big secret, or isn't a big secret, of how much my family struggled with Sofia's future, what it could look like, and where she was going after graduation. And the answer was she wasn't going anywhere. And my biggest scare was having her sit in the middle of our living room for the rest of her life. Because what happens is she becomes more isolated, more anxious, more behaviors. And I just couldn't let that happen. And so when I met Josh and learned about TNS, I was like, this can make a difference. This can get her where she needs to be. And we've only just started seeing what Sofia likes and where she gravitates to. And I wish you knew her before, because now she makes her schedule of where she wants to go, and she's a totally different young lady.
Wow. I mean, what an amazing impact. And you took a stance for her. And not only did you take a stance for Sofia, but you took a stance for your community too. You saw the need and the impact, that the transformation that needed to happen in your own community. And you give people hope that it can happen in theirs.
I hope so. I mean, I think parents know the best about their kids, but if you don't know what you don't know, you're not going to be able to move further. And as Josh said, it's not rocket science. Sofia wants the same thing any other kid wants. You know, she wants to have friends. She wants to go out for pizza. She has a crush on, a good-looking young man. And so, what Josh said is that we bring that. It's participant-driven. The young adults that come to our group, we talk and say, what do we want to do next week? Or what are we looking for? And it's driven by that. Who wants to be told, because our young adults are told what to do for most of their lives, what you need to be doing when you think about the trajectory of where your life is. And I think that's what helps us continue on, is that everyone's trajectory is different, and there are different ways to get there. And a lot of it is common sense. I often compare it to probably before I was in school, but when teachers wouldn't allow a student to be left-handed, they would, force them to be right-handed, Now, what do you do if you have a student that's left-handed? Well, you adapt and you modify things. That's what it is. It's that easy. It's really listening and hearing to what that young adult wants in their life and finding ways to make it happen.
Yeah. And advocating for that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So why does TNS work for Sofia?
I think it's because we don't put things in a box. If there's a barrier, then we're like, okay, there has to be a way around it, or a different way of doing it. And we find that, and we don't limit ourselves. I mean, some of the ideas that Josh and I come up with, my husband's like, okay, all right, you guys go, But we're like, why not? What's it going to hurt if it doesn't work? And, just thinking about the things that Sofia has done in just the short amount of time that I've known Josh just amazes me. Because if you asked anyone that knew me, my big thing was she is so complex. Where is anyone going to accept her? She walks into the pretzel place now, everyone knows her. We walk down the street, people come up and talk to her. My son's, all his friends know who she is, and what she's all about and what she likes. I mean, that's what I've always wanted for her. I've wanted her to matter. I've wanted her to be a part of her community. That if someday she doesn't come to the pretzel place, that they're looking out and saying, "Where's Sofia? We haven't seen her in a while."
Mm-hmm.
That's a sense of belonging in your community that we all want, and people with disabilities want the same thing.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
You are certainly shining a light, both in your own home and in your community. So, wow, Lisa, this whole conversation has given me chills, and it sounds like there has been a profound impact, both professionally and personally, since the time that you've been with TNS. And can you just share how it's transformed your life?
Professionally, I feel like there is such opportunity to just not be professional, I guess is the best way I can say it, that there are not so many formalities. A family will call me or email me, and we'll sit down, and it's as, what are you looking for? What does your son or daughter, and include that son or daughter in the conversation. What do you want in your life? What do you want, 3 years, 5 years down the road? And being able to just have that honest conversation makes a significant difference. There's not a lot of the red tape. And there's not having to worry about so many rules and regulations that we're chasing our own tail. Not that those rules and regulations don't help people, but we have to make sure that they're helping and not getting in our way instead. Mm-hmm. And personally, I just think where before I would stress and stay up at night of what's going to happen to her, and how are we going to maintain a family when there's nothing in her life, there is nothing for her in life. And I don't feel that anymore. Now I'm thinking about, oh, she loves this, she gravitates towards this. How could we add that into her day? The other day, she didn't come home till 3:00 in the afternoon. And she did simple things. She went to Target, she went to a park, she went out to eat like any other young adult would do. And I loved it. It made such a difference. She was out with someone that she likes. It wasn't me. So I'm not doing all the work. I'm not a mom and, her caretaker as far as work-based. I'm now her mom. And the dynamics is significant different. Yeah.
So what I love about what Josh and you have created is the vision of possibility for our communities. Mm-hmm. And for all of our listeners, I would really encourage you to first reach out to TNS. If you feel that this organization can serve your community, your family, please don't hesitate to reach out. But really, like, Josh took a stance and saw this vision for what there was a gap. There was this huge gap between what happens next, and he took a stance for it. And Lisa, in her own community, took a stance for her daughter and her, the people that are in her community. This is what we need to do to help make an impact and a transformation on the communities on our world. So again, I encourage you. I know sometimes taking the first step is scary. It's scary, but wow, look at the profound impact it can make. So I just want to thank you so much for sharing your experience with TNS, for sharing your personal story with us today. And do you have any last comments for our listeners? And is there anything else you want to share or comment on how people can get in touch with you if they have questions?
Sure. Like Josh said, we are on Instagram, Facebook. My email is lisa@tnsprograms.org. And even if you need to reach someone else in the office, if you email me, I can get you connected. I think the big thing is our kids don't need to fall through the cracks after high school. And it starts when you're discussing that transition. And just, talk to me about what you want. And if I don't have the answer, I'll find an answer, find someone who does. Again, you know your child best. Make it happen. And we're here to help you make that happen.
Yeah, the power lives with the parents. Like, we can make a difference. So please, thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us here today. I appreciate it. You are certainly an inspiration to a lot of people out there that are listening. And I just want to applaud you. Again, I'm Joanna Craney. I am the co-founder of Empowered Financial Strategies, financial advisor, special needs planner, and this truly is my passion, to highlight different disability organizations, because I feel that I come in contact with families on a day-to-day basis, and they don't realize that there are organizations out there to support you and your family. So if you have an organization in mind, please feel free to reach out to me at joanna@empowered-fs.com. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.